Tonight isn't just another news cycle. It's the night Donald Trump's illusion of control finally fractures under the fluorescent lights of Congress. While cable anchors speak nervously from Capitol Hill and the White House driveway, let's be clear, this isn't about who said what on CNN. This is about a desperate man with a weakening legal team hoping that Mitch McConnell's resolve doesn't collapse before morning. Trump's lawyers, who have been rehearsing the same familiar defenses for decades, have been burning through printer ink and privilege memos. They have been preparing for a Senate trial they insisted would never come. They thought delay meant protection, but justice, like a debt, compounds. Trump has been pacing like someone under intense pressure. He is frustrated that his expected quick victory in the Senate remains stuck in procedural limbo. He wanted a fast acquit, a moment to declare total exoneration before a rally crowd could finish chanting. But history has no interest in Trump's script. And just when he believed he had managed to control the process again, something unprecedented happened. Not a leak, not a lone judge, but a legal shockwave that makes Watergate feel minor by comparison. 29 federal appellate judges just sent a powerful message to Trump's defense team. They didn't simply reverse a ruling, they erased it. That ruling had been one of Trump's final legal shields, a temporary wind he held on to like a child holding a comfort blanket. And now it is gone, vacated by a bipartisan group of judges who decided that the Constitution is more than a political prop. Let that number sink in, a 29. That's not a panel. That's a turning point, and it's no longer just Democrats supporting impeachment. It's the judiciary signaling that the system must correct course. Trump is not outmaneuvering the system anymore. He is being contained by it. The pressure is closing in. And Trump appears to be the only one who still thinks the alarm is an overreaction. 29 federal judges just removed the last legal barrier he was relying on. Not one, not two, 29. That's not a routine decision. That's a coordinated rejection from the third branch of government. Judges rarely agree unanimously on anything, but here they agreed on this. Trump's legal strategy has exceeded its limits, and the process must move forward. This is not a procedural adjustment, it's an intervention. The kind that happens when a family member repeats the same harmful pattern year after year and someone finally says, sit down, we need to address this now. And Congress heard it clearly. No more pretending this is a partisan debate. No more complaints about political targeting. This is the judiciary placing a heavy weight on Trump's actions and Congress taking notice. Let's pause for a moment, not for a plug, not for promotion, but to ask one simple question. When was the last time you saw the judiciary, the most careful and precedent-focused branch of our democracy, collectively declare, this must stop, this isn't normal, it's extraordinary? It's a blazing signal flashing across the Constitution that says, even we have reached our limit. And these judges didn't act to make headlines. They're not public figures seeking attention. They acted because the system they pledged to protect is being strained by delay and denial. This wasn't an overreaction. It was self-preservation. Think about that. The judiciary isn't just ruling against Trump. They're shielding the institution from further damage. Because when courts begin reinforcing their own boundaries, it means the system is already under pressure. When 29 federal judges stand together and halt the president's legal strategy that isn't routine, that isn't normal, that is a critical alert in formal attire. These judges are among the most cautious professionals in public service, and even they have run out of patience with delay tactics. The judiciary isn't just fatigued, it's determined. And when the court system starts treating a president's claims as a structural concern, the legal game shifts entirely. They voted to eliminate the foundation of his favored ruling, the one his legal team used like patchwork on a failing structure. No more. They want every claim examined, every action evaluated, a clear review, a complete reset without Trump directing the narrative. And if you're Donald Trump, the sound you hear is the legal terrain changing beneath your feet, because when the judiciary stops providing cover and starts applying scrutiny, your entire strategy dissolves. No more hiding behind fringe legal theories. No more searching for sympathetic judges like it's a holiday sale. That phase is over. And right on cue, Congressman Al Green stepped forward as one of the few steady voices in the room.
He isn't just filing impeachment articles, he is using the court's decisive action as political momentum.
And who can blame him? When 29 judges sound the alarm, Congress cannot ignore the call. Al Green isn't guessing. He is pointing directly to the Constitution and saying what others have avoided. Trump didn't just break norms. He disrupted the foundation of the republic. He misused his office. He manipulated the system. He opened the door to foreign influence in America's elections, all while communicating online like a leader who believed he was beyond accountability. But now the system is responding. The courts have spoken, and Green is presenting the evidence. The calendar shows the holiday season approaching. Trump should be less concerned about celebrations and more concerned about legal notices, because this time the message is aimed directly at him. The Constitution doesn't require a booking photo to indicate wrongdoing. You don't need an indictment to qualify for impeachment. The framers designed a system that could respond before a crisis became irreversible. Congress is not a courtroom, it's a safeguard. And Trump didn't just test that safeguard, he overwhelmed it. Abuse of power isn't a secondary issue. It's the core concern. And when 29 federal judges, many with lifetime appointments and no interest in cable news, issue such a strong warning, it's not background noise. It's a clear signal. Accountability is no longer optional. It is required. So the question is simple. What justification remains for Congress to hesitate? The judiciary didn't whisper. It delivered a firm declaration when even the courts, the branch defined by restraint, decide that enough is enough. How long can lawmakers pretend this is political theater? Impeachment isn't a partisan wish anymore. It's becoming a constitutional responsibility. And yes, Trump has been impeached before. He treated it like a political inconvenience. But this moment is different. The environment has changed. The tolerance is thinned. And the people expressing concern are now wearing judicial robes. So why is this time different? Because this time public sentiment shifted. Trump's disapproval has climbed to 58%. That's not just a low number. It's a political crisis territory. A number like that doesn't just make legislators uneasy, it makes them cautious. And the concern is spreading. The difference now isn't in the allegations, it's in the circumstances. Judges, voters, and even a few senators speaking quietly behind closed doors are sending the same message. The influence is fading. Trump is no longer the figure who could defy political gravity. He's becoming a warning in real time. And every branch of government is preparing to shape the conclusion. The pressure is exploding, and the lid just blew off. Public outrage isn't simmering anymore. It's spilling straight into the halls of Congress. Lawmakers are glancing over their shoulders, wondering how long they can defend a man now facing pressure from judges who normally avoid the spotlight. And here's the turning point. 29 federal judges just issued the legal version of a national alarm. That's not subtle. That's a constitutional warning. And when you combine that with a country where more than half the population wants Trump out, you don't get political momentum. You get an avalanche. And Trump hears it. He's not posting frantic messages for show. He's doing it because the insulation is gone. The cold wind of accountability is coming through every crack. Let's be clear. This isn't politics as usual. This is an institutional showdown. The executive branch is under pressure. The judiciary is sending unmistakable signals, and the legislative branch is preparing articles like they're writing a political obituary. We're not watching checks and balances operate quietly behind the scenes. We're watching all three branches confront each other in public. No restraint, no subtlety. Trump is no longer a president facing challenges. He's a man running out of institutions to influence. This is the moment your civics teacher hoped you would never see, but warned could happen. And now the real question arrives. What's the end game? Will Trump resist to the final moment? Will the Senate avoid responsibility, or will the courts keep tightening the legal pressure until even his most devoted supporters sense what's happening? One thing is certain: this situation won't fade quietly. This is a turning point written by history. And if you think this is the peak, think again. This is the part of the story where the lights cut out and you realize the threat is already inside the house. Let's drop the illusions. This isn't beltway gossip or a partisan quarrel. This is about power, real unchecked power. And whether the system still has the strength to contain it, the Constitution isn't a suggestion. It's a binding contract. And Donald Trump has treated it like scrap paper under a fast food cup. The question isn't whether a president can break the rules. He already has. The question now is whether anything stops him. That's what this moment is about. It's not theoretical. It's not academic. It's a real-time test of whether the system holds or collapses slowly. And the strain is visible. That tension you feel, that's what it sounds like when a republic's foundation is tested. Courts are no longer just referees. They're emergency responders. Congress isn't debating policy. It's treating constitutional trauma. And voters are watching to see whether the structure holds. This isn't a lesson on civic duty. It's a demonstration of what happens when one man pushes all three branches and waits to see if any of them respond. Is this what the founders feared? Absolutely. And here's the truth. No one wants to say directly, we're already in the footnotes of future history books if we're fortunate. Worst case, we become the cautionary tale. This isn't simply a scandal. It's a test of democracy's immune system. Can it still recognize danger? Can it respond before the harm reaches the core? Legal scholars will analyze this for years. But what matters now is whether the institutions still work the way they were designed. Trump didn't stumble into this. He pursued it. He pushed limits. He dismantled guardrails. And he did it because he believed nothing would stop him. Now we find out whether he was right. Trump didn't just bend norms. He broke them and challenged the system to react. Every ethical barrier, every democratic safeguard, every unwritten rule that held this country steady through crisis. He tested them, crossed them, and treated the response as optional. And now the reaction has finally arrived. The courts have grown tired of being used as a delay mechanism. Congress, long paralyzed by hesitation, is beginning to move, and Americans are watching, wondering if the Constitution still carries weight. This isn't only about Trump. It's about the core of the American project. Do laws still matter when the violator sits in the Oval Office? Now let's open the timeline and examine the central event. On November 26, 2025, 2 days ago, the judiciary dropped a political shockwave. 29 federal appellate judges didn't just adjust a ruling, they erased it. They dismantled a lower court decision that had been supporting Trump's defense strategy like a failing beam. This wasn't a correction, it was a declaration. We're starting over. The game is finished. And when nearly 30 judges from different circuits and different ideologies reach the same conclusion, it's not routine justice. It's a judgment with national consequences. So let's make this simple. Vacate means gone, not revised, not softened, removed. They declared that the ruling, once a valuable delay tactic for Trump's team, is now unusable. That's not just about legal rules. It's about confidence in the process. When judges say something is unacceptable, they're not guessing. They're stating that the problem is real. Trump hasn't been found guilty, but the message from the court is louder than a conviction. We see what's happening, and we will not ignore it. What comes next is where the danger grows for him. We're starting over. That's the sentence that just set Trump's strategy on fire. His legal approach for years has been simple. Delay, distract, appeal, repeat. His attorneys weren't trying to win on the merits. They were trying to exhaust the calendar. And for a while it worked. They found weak points and used them. But now 29 judges have turned on the lights, and delay tactics don't survive full visibility. Let's be honest, Trump's legal team wasn't building strong arguments. They were running a game of misdirection. File here, stall there, push everything into 2026. They scored a few technical wins in lower courts, but then the higher courts stepped in. 29 appellate judges didn't simply reverse one of those decisions. They erased it completely. It's like an entire orchestra stopping mid-performance to say, this isn't music, this is noise. When that many judges say enough, it becomes more than a ruling. It becomes a national statement. This was a system-wide warning. The judiciary didn't just reject a tactic. They rejected the philosophy behind it. Delay, confuse, and disrupt. And now that strategy has collapsed. These judges aren't political actors. They're lifetime appointees, conservatives, moderates, and liberals standing together to say, you cannot undermine the rule of law. Experts aren't exaggerating when they call this seismic. Unity like this on the bench is rare. This is the moment the courts stopped being quiet and began being direct. The game has changed. This wasn't a closed-door meeting among one ideological group. These judges came from across the spectrum, different states, different legal traditions. Some are admired by conservative groups. Others are celebrated by progressive scholars. But on this issue, they reached the same conclusion. Remove the ruling. When such a diverse group speaks with one voice, it's not politics, it's an alarm. And if you're Trump's legal team, you're not out of time. You're already standing on the trapdoor. Let's be blunt. Even the judges who likely supported Trump in 2016 are distancing themselves now. They reviewed his case, checked the briefs, examined the facts, and concluded, no, this doesn't hold up. You know what that means. Trump's legal defenses aren't just weakening, they're deteriorating. And the reaction is bipartisan. As the court support fractures, guess who's preparing the next move? Congress. Because this wasn't simply a judicial moment. It was the starting signal for political consequence. And the timing wasn't accidental. Congressman Al Green didn't wait for a news network to approve his plan. He's been preparing the impeachment strategy for months, and now the system has delivered the perfect moment. On November 20th, 2025, remember that date? Al Green made it official. He committed to filing articles of impeachment before Christmas. That wasn't a media gesture. It was a fuse. He spelled out what this fight is really about. Violations of constitutional duty by a president who treats the executive branch like a private business facing scrutiny. Trump didn't just push boundaries. He tore them apart and called it success. Green isn't performing for attention. He's following the trail of damage, abuse of power, disregard for law, and now a judiciary that effectively said, move forward. Once Congress receives that kind of validation from the courts, there's nowhere left to hide, not even in Florida. Now that 29 federal judges have removed the legal shield, Trump relied on Congressman Al Green, doesn't need to raise his voice. He only needs to direct attention, point to the courts, point to the erosion, point to the Constitution, and the room falls silent. His argument is straightforward. Trump swore an oath, then used the White House like a personal protective bubble. This wasn't leadership. It was self-interest wrapped in gold trim. When a president treats executive authority like a rewards program, someone must step in. And now at last the courts are standing with the lawmakers willing to do it. But Green isn't stopping with corruption. He's outlining the full case. Obstruction of justice, check. Attempts to influence the courts, check. Pressuring the judiciary like it's a reality show contestant, also check. None of these issues are new. They've been present for years. What's changed is the environment. The excuses are gone. Public sentiment has shifted sharply. 58% of Americans have labeled Trump unfit for office. Congressional patience has disappeared. And when even the judiciary, a branch trained for restraint, begins raising its voice, you know, the situation is serious. When public frustration, legal pushback, and political fatigue intersect, you get something. Washington rarely produces movement. Impeachment is no longer abstract. It's already in motion, and it's driven not only by misconduct, but by the national atmosphere. The system senses deterioration and is responding like an immune system finally activating. Want a number that matters. As of November 12, 2025, Trump's disapproval reached 58%. That's not a caution sign, it's a directive. Nearly 6 out of 10 Americans are saying enough. And when that many people align, it stops being political. It becomes unavoidable. 58%. That's not a margin. It's a political notice. When almost 6 in 10 Americans withdraw support from a sitting president, it doesn't just concern pollsters. It unsettles Congress. That number has risen steadily, fueled by Trump's continued attempts to stretch power, his legal battles, and the steady decline of policies across multiple areas. This isn't just about disapproval. It's about disillusionment. And in Washington, that kind of shift doesn't just move votes, it changes survival instincts. If you want to understand how impeachment becomes inevitable, watch a Republican senator approached by a local news crew at a town hall. Watch their eyes shift. Listen to the hesitation in their voice. That's the pressure of constituents overriding years of loyalty to someone once seen as politically untouchable. The truth is, Trump's approval dropping below 40 doesn't just allow Congress to act. It protects them when they do. I'm not leading the charge, they'll say. I'm listening to voters. And that's the shift happening now. The political retreat has begun. Lawmakers aren't abandoning the ship quietly. They're building exits made of hearings and distancing statements. And let's be honest, this judicial disruption didn't appear from nowhere. It's simply the loudest crack in a structure that has been weakening since the New York cases. Trump's legal world is a network of ongoing difficulties. Civil cases, criminal exposure, multiple jurisdictions, and the pattern is consistent. He is losing repeatedly. His claims of immunity are being dismissed. Delay tactics are failing. Judges are frustrated. Juries aren't persuaded. His legal strategy isn't a barrier. It's thin paper. And now with 29 federal judges rejecting his approach at once, the entire nation sees it clearly, even those who tried not to. Here's what Trump's legal team won't acknowledge. The courts are finished entertaining these tactics. Immunity arguments rejected. Delays declined. Procedural maneuvers finished. 29 appellate judges didn't just decline his request. They signaled that these strategies should not return. That's not a mild rebuke. It's a message that the judiciary no longer views Trump as a routine participant in the system, but as someone attempting to strain it. If he thought judges were his final support, he's now watching that support fall away. And here's where the situation intensifies for him and for everyone still aligned with him. This ruling didn't just affect one case. It sent a signal through the entire legal framework. Federal judges pay attention to judicial consensus, and this one came through clearly. 29 appellate judges delivered a united message. That level of institutional alignment tells every courtroom from Manhattan to Florida, you don't need to adjust your standards for this defendant. The balance has shifted. The fear has faded, and ambition, especially judicial ambition, grows quickly in the absence of hesitation. Even if this particular ruling never directly impacts Trump's other cases, the signal it sends influences them all. It tells the judiciary, enforce the standards. It tells prosecutors, continue forward. And it tells Trump's allies in Congress that their legal protection is dissolving. This is what systemic correction looks like when institutions once pressured into silence begin to speak decisively again. And if you think this ends in the courtroom, it doesn't, because impeachment operates within the law, but the engine behind it is political. And the political atmosphere is becoming increasingly difficult for Trump. The Constitution gave Congress the authority, but it did not provide courage. The House can impeach. The Senate can remove, but both chambers are filled with individuals whose first loyalty is often their next campaign. So the question isn't can they remove Trump, it's will they, and that's where polling becomes more than data. It becomes self-preservation because every member of Congress is looking at the numbers and asking a single question, am I staying on this path or am I going down with him? And now thanks to the judicial equivalent of the DEFCON 1, the political math is shifting fast. 29 federal judges just triggered a constitutional shockwave. 58% of Americans have turned away from Trump. That combination isn't just pressure, it's permission. It's cover for Republicans who were too afraid to step away. Suddenly breaking ranks doesn't look like betrayal. It looks like survival. And those who stay too long, they're not loyalists. They're the ones the moment leaves behind. Here's the part no one says publicly, but every Republican strategist mutters after their third drink. They're watching this unfold the way investors study a collapsing stock. They're calculating losses, timing the exit. For senators in competitive states and House members in districts where the margins matter, Trump is becoming a political liability. And the silence you hear that isn't allegiance, it's hesitation. It's the pause before the movement. Because once the first lawmaker steps away, others will follow fast as if it were coordinated all along. And if you think they won't distance themselves to protect their own futures, you don't understand Washington. When judges in black robes start signaling enough and the president's approval rating drops sharply, the atmosphere changes. Republicans, especially those who supported Trump mainly to avoid becoming the target of an angry message, are running the numbers, and the results aren't in his favor. Loyalty in Washington has an expiration date shorter than an open container in the fridge. And with 29 federal judges drawing a clear boundary, it's no longer about allegiance, it's about exit strategy. Lawmakers are already looking toward the lifeboats. This isn't happening quietly. It's happening on a clock. And the calendar isn't helping Trump. The holiday season is usually Congress's downtime. But now Congressman Al Green is preparing articles of impeachment just in time for Christmas. That's not typical legislative timing. It's a disruptive moment inserted into a season of planned calm, and no holiday song is loud enough to drown it out. Here's where the pressure becomes personal. Every holiday table from Arizona to Alabama is about to turn into a discussion about the Constitution. Relatives will debate, opinions will clash, and the background noise in every home. Trump's political struggles flashing on screens. The narrative isn't limited to Washington anymore. It's entering living rooms across the country. Pressure like this doesn't fade. It builds. And for Trump's allies, it's like trying to hide a house fire under a carpet. It doesn't work. Let's set the talking points aside and get to the core. You want conclusions. Here are the ones that matter. These aren't cable news slogans. They're warning signs flashing across every institution that still functions. Because this isn't just another moment in Trump's timeline. It's the system signaling distress. If you're not paying attention now, you may not get another chance. Start here, 29 appellate judges. Not 9, not a single panel. A large group of judges from different regions, backgrounds, and judicial philosophies, all reaching the same conclusion. They didn't simply overturn a ruling. They closed it off completely. That level of alignment doesn't happen casually. It's the judiciary raising a signal that says, this approach is undermining the courts, and we're done with it. Trump's legal team has relied on one tactic, delay. And for years it worked. But now the courts are shutting that door. They're saying start from the beginning and follow the rules. That's not just difficult news for Trump. It's a structural failure of his entire approach. Judges don't react like this unless they believe something fundamental is at risk. And when so many judges take the same action at once, it isn't political. It's institutional protection. The legal exits are disappearing, and Trump is still accelerating toward the barrier. This isn't partisan theatrics. It's the final line of defense doing its job. The judiciary isn't issuing warnings, it's issuing decisions. And those decisions just gave Congress something it lacked for a long time. Validated authority. Enter Al Green, not a headline seeker, but someone with documented evidence. He's filing impeachment articles before Christmas. And this time he's not speaking into a void. He's backed by the courts. When 29 judges effectively say this must stop, it's not a protest. It's an institutional conclusion. This isn't a party spectacle. It's not about one political group. It's Congress responding to a constitutional challenge. All three branches of government, once cautious about stepping on each other's roles, are confronting the same issue. The judiciary says Trump endangers legal norms. Congress says he's unfit for leadership. The public, they're ready for change. When all three align, it's not politics, it's necessity. And Trump is the common factor no one wants to bring into 2026. You want numbers. Here's the one keeping Republicans awake, 58%. That isn't just a statistic. It's political cover backed by public judgment. A majority of Americans see Trump as a source of instability. Senators and representatives who have been hiding behind procedural arguments now have permission to step away. And they will, because when public frustration reaches a certain point, loyalty becomes secondary. And in Washington, nothing outruns self-preservation. When a lawmaker finally turns against Trump, they don't claim moral awakening. They say, I'm listening to my voters. That's the phrase that protects a career. It's not courage, it's calculation. Because when public disapproval rises past 58%, even the most committed supporters reassess impeachment, stops being a matter of principle. It becomes a strategy for political survival. And re-election always outranks loyalty. This isn't political drift. It's a change in the landscape. And here comes the next wave, judicial impact. When 29 appellate judges deliver a ruling like this, it affects more than one case. It signals to the entire legal system that Trump's defense strategies are no longer viable. Judges across the country read that message clearly. They aren't hesitant anymore. They're prepared to act. The period of judicial restraint toward Trump is ending. The courts are responding firmly. Sure, this specific ruling might not eliminate the hush money case or the defamation fallout, but symbolically it's an explosion. Every lawyer relying on Trump's old delay tactics just felt the ground shift beneath them. Prosecutors aren't hesitating. They're preparing. The judiciary is aligned in rare unity, and the ripple is real. Every courtroom is now a stage Trump can't direct, and every attorney in his circle just received a clear message. You're not defending a president. You're defending someone the system has already begun to move away from. The terrain has shifted, and Trump is standing on the wrong side of the divide. This ruling isn't just a win or loss in one case. It's a shockwave running through the entire judicial landscape. 29 appellate judges didn't just reverse a decision. They sent a signal. The old playbook is obsolete. This was never about one courtroom. It was about establishing a tone across the federal bench. And every judge in the country heard it. Here's the truth. No one in Trump's orbit wants to say out loud. Judges pay attention to each other. They read rulings. They observe patterns. And when nearly 30 appellate judges draw a clear boundary, it becomes institutional momentum. No judge wants to be overturned. No one wants to appear to bend the rules for a defendant the system now views as destabilizing. This isn't bias, it's self-preservation. And that wave is already moving toward every Trump-related case in America. What's next? Pushback from the bench, skepticism toward immunity, no more tolerance for stalling. Every motion Trump's legal team submits will carry new scrutiny. The scrutiny of a judiciary that has already said it's done with delay tactics. And politically, this is not a quiet shift. It's a warning signal. We're entering a moment where legal firmness meets political momentum. And the next few weeks will show whether Congress has the resolve to respond or whether it freezes under pressure. We've now entered the next phase of Trump's unraveling, where every public move reflects the stress beneath the surface. Will he respond with angry posts, hold another rally focused on grievances, shift blame to conspiracies or past controversies? Probably. But here's the difference. None of it lands the way it used to. His core supporters are tired. Independent voters have moved on. And the judiciary, they're done acting as shields for someone who treats subpoenas like decoration. You feel that tension. That's not performance. It's real pressure. The courts aren't just ruling. They're speaking loudly. Congress isn't just murmuring. It's preparing. And voters, they're paying attention. So why is so much of the media treating this like a minor infraction instead of a constitutional shock? 29 federal judges moving in near unison isn't routine bureaucracy. It's a judicial break from patience. This isn't partisan conflict. It's institutional pushback. You have Reagan-appointed judges and Obama-appointed judges, jurists who often disagree on fundamentals, is now aligned in saying enough. When the judiciary speaks with this level of clarity, it overpowers every oversimplified talking point. So ask yourself, if the courts are speaking and the public is watching, who is still pretending this is just noise, and why 29 federal judges didn't simply raise concern. They illuminated the constitutional landscape. And no, this wasn't a partisan fantasy. These weren't ideologically uniform jurists. This was the system itself. Conservatives and liberals sending a signal that something is fundamentally wrong.
So what's next? Congressman Al Green is preparing to introduce articles of impeachment as the country enters the holiday season and the judiciary's re-examination of that vacated ruling.
It's not a procedural note. It's the blueprint for political acceleration. Trump's response will be predictable: deny, deflect, counterattack. He'll frame it as a coordinated effort against him. He'll claim vindication. But here's the reality. He's running out of room. The judiciary's position is solidifying, and Congress, even a frequently stalled Congress, is beginning to move. The 2026 political map is shifting under him.
And while true removal remains a complex process, Trump's opponents now have momentum, and they have legal tools in hand. The space inside Trump's political shelter is shrinking quickly.
Every headline, every ruling, every firm judicial response tightens the situation. And yes, it feels overwhelming. Legal filings, impeachment discussions, constitutional debates. But this isn't background noise. This is a nation deciding what kind of system it wants to preserve. You can't ignore moments like this. Not when the stakes are this high. Not when the law itself first speaks quietly and then loudly. Enough. Let's be clear. The idea that a president can casually disregard the law is the true danger here. The founders didn't design the Constitution so any president could override it with impulsive decisions and force of personality. They built a structure with safeguards, checks, balances, and the occasional judicial correction. And today, that system is finally engaging. The judiciary isn't sending suggestions. It's issuing clear decisions. And Congress, it's beginning to respond. Is it late? Yes. But late is better than silent. This is what democracy looks like. Not the symbolic version, but the real demanding version. 29 federal judges didn't whisper disapproval. They delivered a decisive ruling that challenges Trump's assumption of invulnerability. Congress is finding its footing and preparing impeachment articles. Public opinion, it has shifted strongly. And the walls, they're not simply closing in. They're carrying the weight of every stalled case, every delayed motion, and every disregard shown toward the legal system. Trump's strategy was always delay, deny, and dominate. but he has run out of runway. The judges didn't hesitate, the courts drew the boundary, and now Congress is pulling out the accountability ledger. No more wait and see. No more hiding behind procedural fog. We are in the center of the conflict now. And what comes next is not only about Trump, it's about whether the rule of law in this country still means something. The next few weeks are going to shape history or test it. Now let's stop pretending this is just another chapter of the Trump era. If he is removed or even politically sidelined by this legal momentum, it reshapes the foundation of American politics. The 2026 midterms, forget the predicted wave of Trump-aligned victories. The Republican Party will either reinvent itself or fracture. And presidential power, it just received a reminder. It's not absolute. It's not personal property. It exists within legal limits. And those limits require accountability. You feel that. That's not simple political tension. It's generational weight. We are not in a news cycle. We are in a civic shift from Congress to kitchen tables in Wisconsin. People are paying attention, not because of spectacle, though Trump often turns everything into one, but because this moment will be studied for decades. The real question is, will we be the generation that backed away or the one that finally said enough? And here's where the danger rises. Trump's next move won't be standard messaging. It will be survival instinct. And for him, survival often means escalating conflict. He'll return to familiar themes, claiming persecution, amplifying grievance, pointing to enemies everywhere. But this time, the room is smaller, the pressure is higher, and the Constitution is not giving him space. So ask yourself, is America still vulnerable to this strategy? Or have we finally strengthened the system enough to contain it? Brace yourself, because his next reaction will be loud. Trump's crisis playbook has only a few steps. Criticize the judges, question their motives, claim coordinated opposition, and attempt to shift the narrative. He will try to convince supporters he is unjustly targeted. But this time it's different. He is isolated and the judiciary is united. This isn't a single ruling he can deflect with a post online. It's a coordinated decision from federal judges saying this stops now. And that kind of legal resistance cannot be overridden by messaging alone. You want to talk about a true shift in American history. Start here. 29 judges didn't just respond, they aligned. That's not legal routine. That's institutional pushback against the idea of unchecked power. Congress didn't hesitate either. They're preparing to use impeachment as the framers intended. Whether the effort succeeds or not, this moment will be remembered because this wasn't typical politics. This was the legal system applying structure again. And here's the most important part. The public isn't disengaged. They're reading, following events, organizing, voting. And yes, they're frustrated because for once the American system didn't step aside. It responded imperfectly, always carefully, often. But when 29 judges, a motivated Congress, and an attentive electorate all move in the same direction, that's a functioning democracy. Still challenged, still recovering, but working. And for anyone who cares about truth and the law, that is worth defending. So here we are watching democracy balance on a sharp edge. And if anyone tells you that your concern doesn't matter or your attention doesn't influence outcomes, they're wrong. This isn't entertainment. It's a national stress test. Your awareness, your participation, your vote, that's the safeguard. The moment we disengage, the opportunists step in. And if you think this ends with Trump, it doesn't. This is about whether the system we inherited still holds after years of pressure. And the headlines, they are only the visible layer. Beneath them, every agency, every courtroom, every campaign team is recalibrating. This isn't a moment frozen in time. It's a political shift unfolding. Miss a day, and you miss a major development. So stay alert, stay informed. The next chapter isn't just approaching. It's rewriting the expectations we once had about accountability in America.